Welcome back to ICU, Truth Seekers. And thanks to you, we are enhancing lives and helping decent people cultivate self-efficacy skills that they are leveraging for quality living. Welcome back to ICU. And I'm confident my voice reaches you in excellent health of mind, body, and spirit. Here in ICU, as you all know, you are our power, and you propel us to confront crisis with clarity. Our prescription in ICU is not the useless words uttered by politicians day in, day out, thoughts and prayers when a crisis arises. All these words uttered without an ounce. When I repeat, I say an ounce of care or concern. The words are just empty rhetoric. You are in ICU because your inner consciousness is unraveled, and the intentionally competent you begins to admit that you allowed yourself to be conned, and now the chickens have come home to roost. All the while, your true self, as depicted by your vote, is now being mirrored for the whole world to see, and you can't stomach what stirs back at you. In this ICU, we don't peddle outrage. We expose operating systems. Here, we don't rant, we refrain. And I'll keep repeating this until I turn blue in the face, if that's even possible. I am not here by choice. I'm not here to diagnose a man or a nation. I'm still here, seated, reluctantly, as always, across the couch from Uncle Donald, and across from a system that small minds have fostered, and those same small minds can't stomach what depictions their reflections portray. This is not armchair therapy. It's never been and will never be. This will always be nervous system literacy for a nation spiraling rapidly towards self-inflicted doom and global irrelevance. Today's episode is titled Breaking the Spell, the Psychology of Political Cults in America and Around the Globe. Let's begin. And we start by understanding political cults. Political cults are not about policy. They're about belonging and identity. Leaders of political cults exploit psychological vulnerabilities. And here are some examples of that. The need for certainty in an uncertain world. MAGA. Craving for identity and community. Desire for simplicity in complex times. MAGA. So let's consider why rational arguments fall flat against cult beliefs. It's simple. Followers are not persuaded by facts, but anchored by emotional investment. To them, logic doesn't break the spell. Emotional intelligence is the key. That's what we leverage to be able to break that spell. But how many of them can you reach? How many of them have cultivated emotional intelligence? Because the ones that have are no longer MAGA folk. How is that spell cast? I mean, it's very simple. Cult leaders manipulate basic human psychology. Us versus them. That polarizing rhetoric that creates enemies to solidify group identity. Every time you hear them, us versus them, the others. Fear and protection. Consistently. Cult leaders bring out fear and project themselves as the protectors. See? This is what they constantly evoke They evoke threats only they can protect followers from, right? The others, they're taking over your country. I can put an end to it. Only I can do that. And what do the cult followers do? Follow along, like hypnotized folks. And what do cult leaders do? Isolation. They limit access to external ideas to reinforce internal narratives. So let's reflect on these. Have you obsessed over anything? Have you obsessed over certain basic facts that have drawn some emotional feelings out of you? And why are you thinking about that? Ask yourself, have you observed these tactics in your own community? Why are people drawn into psychological traps? It's clear. Awareness is the first step towards breaking that spell. That is the solution. But how many of these people are open to enlightenment and awareness? So let's examine Trumpism as a case study. Donald Trump's following is textbook political cult behavior. Unquestioning loyalty despite blatant contradictions. Dismissal of objective reality as fake news. Aggressive demonization of dissent. So ask yourself, what emotional needs does Trump fulfill for his followers? Why do his supporters dismiss facts so easily verified? What does this tell us about America's current psychological health? Trumpism reveals deep-seated vulnerabilities in the American psyche. And it's tantamount time for us to take a step back and assess this instead of just reacting to the symptoms that we witness. And this is not just an American problem. There are global patterns from Putin to Bolsonaro. Political cult psychology isn't uniquely American. Globally, like I've mentioned, figures like Putin and Bolsonaro and Modi leverage identical psychological dynamics. Nationalistic pride used to mask personal insecurity. Manufactured crises that justify authoritarian control. Demonizing media, institutions, and critics to create total dependency. And it's easy if you have a mouthpiece or a mouth machine, like Fox News and other outlets that just regurgitate that stuff and reinforce those control mechanisms onto followers. So let's reflect deeply on this. How does the global phenomenon of political cults threaten democracy everywhere? Why is the global psyche vulnerable to charismatic authoritarianisms? Because in understanding global patterns, it's going to help us contextualize local ones. But we are in ICU. And in ICU, we practice several traits to help us break free from political cult mindsets. So this week's practice helps you reclaim cognitive autonomy. And we start by what? We identify the spell. We recognize the signs of emotional manipulation in political narratives. We reflect on moments when our emotions were weaponized for political identity. And we have to always engage in critical reframing. And one of the tools that I use for critical reframing is this. I'll complete a sentence, right? I no longer accept manipulation disguised as, you can fill in that blank. I choose clarity because, fill that out. So clear example is what I usually use all the time. I no longer accept manipulation disguised as patriotism, especially now during Trump. I choose clarity because true patriotism questions power. We don't follow blindly. I also cultivate emotional intelligence. When confronted with emotionally charged political messaging, pause for a second and ask, is this appealing to my fears or to my hopes? Am I being invited to think critically, or am I being pressured to conform? Because breaking free from manipulation is reclaiming your cognitive sovereignty. A lot to think about. A lot to think about. So, in closing, I'll say this to you. Political cults flourish in psychologically dark spaces. Your greatest defense is awareness and emotional clarity. Breaking the spell isn't easy, but it's essential. Let those words sit on your nervous system for a second. Breaking the spell isn't easy, but it's essential. And it's not just essential for you, it's essential for your community, it's essential for our nation. So next week in ICU, we'll delve into cognitive sovereignty, protecting your mind in the age of manipulation. And we're all falling victim to this, especially with the rapidly advancing introduction of AI into every single facet of our lives now. We are bombarded by information in every corner. That cognitive sovereignty is a valued asset we need to protect. But until next time, carry what serves you, release what doesn't. But always keep walking forward with your ancestors at your back and your inner compass ahead as your guiding staff. Until then, may you diagnose wisely, resist boldly, and reimagine kindly. As always, subscribe, share, like, engage with us, and remember to breathe. And always, always, always send love to your nervous system. Until next time, I'm Dr. Epie. I see you.